Wait, before you pour that miracle solution on your precious little plants, stop right there. Did you know that the absolute holy grail of gardening could actually be a lethal poison for your seedlings? Yes, you heard me correctly. Today we are talking about succinic acid, the Internet's favorite plant stimulator. You have probably seen hundreds of videos promising that this little white pill will turn your fragile sprouts into absolute monsters. But I am here to tell you that following the most popular recipe online is guaranteed to send your plants straight to the compost bin. By the end of this video, you will discover the shocking truth about what this acid actually does to young roots, and I will reveal the closely guarded secret of the real, safe dosage that nobody talks about. So, let me ask you a question. Are you ready to find out if you have been accidentally poisoning your own garden? Before we dive into the disaster zone, let us establish what we are actually dealing with here. Succinic acid is an organic compound that is naturally found in amber and various plant tissues. In the gardening world, it is legendary. It is not exactly a food or a fertilizer, but rather a powerful biological stimulator. It helps plants recover from severe stress, boosts their immune system, and encourages root development. Because it is cheap and sold in almost every pharmacy and garden center, it has become a massive trend. But here is where the story goes dark. Because it is labeled as natural and safe for humans, people assume it is totally harmless for plants. This has led to a massive wave of terrible, highly destructive advice spreading across the internet like wildfire. Let us dive right into the biggest lie circulating on gardening forums today. You have probably seen those viral posts or videos claiming that mixing 1 gram of succinic acid into 1 liter of water is the ultimate magic potion for your seedlings. They promise explosive growth and indestructible roots. But here is the ugly truth. That concentration is an absolute death sentence for young, tender plants. Imagine brewing a cup of coffee so strong that it dissolves the spoon. That is exactly what 1 gram per liter feels like to a baby tomato or pepper plant. Succinic acid is incredibly potent. While adult plants growing outdoors in a massive volume of soil might tolerate a heavier hand, seedlings are confined to tiny cups with incredibly sensitive microroots. When you douse them with such a heavily concentrated acidic solution, you're not feeding them. You are essentially chemically burning their only means of absorbing water and nutrients. This myth has ruined thousands of indoor gardens. It is time we stop blindly trusting these extreme recipes and start understanding the actual chemistry of what we are pouring into our pots. If you have ever used this 1 gram recipe and watched your plants mysteriously wilt the next day, you now know exactly who the culprit is. So, what exactly happens under the soil when this toxic wave hits? Let us look at a vivid example to really understand the disaster. Picture the roots of your seedling as thousands of microscopic, highly sensitive sponges. Their entire job is to gently pull in moisture and dissolved nutrients. When a massive dose of succinic acid enters the chat, it drastically alters the osmotic pressure in the root zone. Instead of water flowing into the roots, the extreme concentration of the acid forces water to rush out of the plant cells to dilute the harsh environment. The result is rapid cellular dehydration. We call this a severe root burn. Your plant literally dies of thirst while sitting in soaking wet soil. It is a terrible, ironic way for a plant to go. You will notice the leaves looking incredibly sad, floppy, and lifeless. And because human nature makes us think a wilting plant needs more water, you might be tempted to water it again, making the drowning and burning cycle even worse. It is crucial to remember that natural does not always mean safe. Arsenic is natural, but you would not put it in your tea. Succinic acid is a powerful biological stimulator, and treating it like harmless water is the fastest way to wipe out your entire spring planting effort. Now, let us talk about the invisible trap hiding right inside your potting mix, which is soil acidity. Most seedlings, whether they are peppers, eggplants, or cucumbers, prefer a very neutral, balanced soil environment. They want the pH to be just right, usually around 6.0 to 6.5. When you dump a highly concentrated solution of succinic acid into a tiny plastic cup, you drastically plummet the pH level of that soil. You are essentially turning a comfortable, neutral bed into an acid bath. Here is the big problem with highly acidic soil. Even if there are plenty of nutrients available in your potting mix, a low pH completely locks them away. The seedling roots become physically incapable of absorbing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It is like locking a starving person in a grocery store but taking away the keys to all the food cabinets. You will start seeing strange purple tints on the stems or lower leaves turning paper yellow. People often mistake this for a nutrient deficiency and start adding heavy chemical fertilizers, which only adds more salt and acid to the burning soil. You are just throwing gasoline on a fire at that point. Understanding pH is the secret weapon to keeping your little green friends alive. Moving on from the soil, we need to talk about another catastrophic mistake gardeners make, which is spraying this heavy acid mixture directly onto the fragile leaves of seedlings. Foliar feeding is wildly popular, and yes, plants do absorb things through their leaves. But remember the 1 gram per liter rule we debunked? Spraying that liquid fire onto baby leaves under artificial grow lights is a recipe for absolute disaster. Plant leaves have microscopic breathing holes called stomata. When you coat them in a dense acidic film, you are completely burning their delicate outer tissue. The water evaporates quickly under the warm grow lights, leaving behind a highly concentrated crust of pure acid right on the surface of the leaf. Think about going to a sunny beach covered in cooking oil instead of sunscreen. You are going to get fried. Within 24 hours of this deadly spa treatment, your seedlings will develop dry, crispy brown spots. The edges of the leaves will curl up in a desperate attempt to protect themselves. Once a leaf is chemically burned like this, it can never recover. The plant has to waste massive amounts of energy trying to grow new leaves, completely stalling its overall development just when it needs to be getting stronger. Another massive casualty of this acid overdose is something you cannot even see with the naked eye. I am talking about the microscopic heroes living in your soil. A good seedling mix is alive. It is packed with beneficial bacteria and helpful fungi that work around the clock to break down organic matter and protect your baby plants from diseases. When you flood their tiny ecosystem with a massive dose of succinic acid, you are dropping a chemical bomb on this fragile microflora. The sudden drop in pH in the harsh acidic environment instantly wipes out millions of these good microbes. Imagine taking a massive dose of strong antibiotics just because you got a tiny paper cut on your finger. It completely destroys your gut health for no good reason. The same thing happens in your plant pots. Once the good bacteria are dead, the bad guys move in. Nasty fungal infections, root rot, and the dreaded damping off disease suddenly have zero competition. The soil goes sour, starts smelling a bit weird, and mold might even start growing on the surface. By trying to artificially boost your plant with crazy dose of acid, you have actually stripped away its natural immune system and left it completely defenseless against real pathogens. Let us dig into the psychology of why we do this to our plants. It is the classic trap of thinking that if a little bit is good, then a lot must be fantastic. We are so anxious to see our little green babies grow big and strong that we try to force feed them. We buy a packet of succinic acid powder at the pharmacy or garden center, and instead of measuring it carefully, we just dump a whole spoonful into the watering can. It is a very human mistake, but we absolutely must stop treating plant care like a fast food eating contest. Plants operate on incredibly slow, subtle biological rhythms. They do not want energy drinks. They want steady, gentle support. If you give a plant more stimulator than it can biologically process, it goes into severe shock. Instead of growing faster, it completely shuts down. Its cellular processes panic, and it stops taking in water altogether. It is the exact same concept as drinking 10 cups of strong coffee to help you study. You will not become a genius. You will just end up with shaking hands and a terrible headache. We need to respect the delicate nature of seedlings and remember that patience is the absolute most important fertilizer you can ever apply to your indoor garden. So, how do you know if you have accidentally committed this crime against your plants? Let us go over the undeniable warning signs of a succinic acid overdose so you can catch it before it is too late. The very first red flag usually appears within 48 hours. The lowest leaves on your seedling, which are called the cotyledons, will suddenly turn a sickly, bright yellow and drop off. This is the plant throwing its heavy luggage overboard to save the main ship. Next, you will notice the growth tip at the very top completely stalls out. It will not push out any new tiny leaves. If you look closely at the main stem, it might look slightly shriveled or lose its firm, healthy green color. The soil will remain strangely wet for days and days because the burned roots have completely stopped drinking. It is like listening to the silent scream of a tomato plant. If you pick up the little pot and it feels heavy and wet, but the leaves on top are drooping and looking sad, you have a major root zone crisis on your hands. Recognizing these symptoms early is critical because if you catch it quickly, there is a small chance you might still be able to save your precious green babies from the compost bin. Now that we have thoroughly busted the myth of using 1 gram, what is the actual safe and effective secret dosage? If you really want to use succinic acid to help your seedlings cope with stress, you need to think on a microscopic level. For young, indoor seedlings growing in small cups, the maximum safe dosage is 0.1 grams per liter of water. Yes, you heard me right. 0.1 grams. That is 1/10 of what the crazy internet recipes tell you to use. Since most of us do not own highly sensitive laboratory scales, here is a practical trick. If you have a standard tablet of succinic acid from the pharmacy, usually weighing 0.1 grams, you dissolve just one single tablet in a full liter of warm water. If you have powder, you want an amount no bigger than a single grain of rice, or what you can barely scoop on the very tip of a wooden toothpick. It should look like an absolutely pathetic amount of powder. Think of it like adding a tiny pinch of salt to a huge pot of soup. You do not want the soup to taste salty. You just want to enhance the flavor. That invisible, highly diluted mixture is all the stimulation your fragile little plants need to build strong roots without burning them. But what if you are watching this video right now and realizing you watered your seedlings with the toxic 1-gram mixture just yesterday? Do not panic. Let us go through the emergency rescue protocol. You need to act incredibly fast. If the acid has only been in the soil for a day, immediately take your pots to the sink. You need to flush the soil heavily with pure room temperature water. Pour water through the top and let it drain completely out of the bottom holes. Do this 3 or 4 times to physically wash the excess acid out of the dirt. However, if the plant is already severely wilting and the roots are badly burned, flushing will not save it. You need to perform emergency surgery. Gently pull the seedling out of the toxic wet mud. Rinse the roots carefully in a bowl of clean water to wash off the acid. Then, replant it into completely fresh, slightly moist potting soil. Do not add any fertilizers. Do not add any stimulators. Just pure dirt and a gentle environment. Keep it out of harsh, direct light for a few days while it recovers. It is literally like putting a patient in the intensive care unit. They might lose a few leaves, but with quick action, the main stem might just push out fresh, healthy roots. To wrap up our deep dive into the main part of this topic, let us clarify exactly when and where succinic acid actually shines. It is not an evil substance. It is just wildly misused. The perfect time to use succinic acid is actually before your plant even has roots. Soaking hard seeds like peppers or eggplants in a weak solution for 12 hours before planting is a fantastic way to wake them up and speed up germination. It is also brilliant for large, adult plants out in the garden. If your mature tomatoes get hit by a sudden cold snap, a brutal heat wave, or an unexpected hailstorm, spraying them with succinic acid acts like a powerful anti-stress medicine. Their thick, mature roots and tough adult leaves can easily handle the acidity and process the stimulation safely. You just have to treat it like a specialized medicine in a first aid kit, not like daily drinking water. You only pull it out when there is a specific job to do or a specific stress event to overcome. By understanding the profound difference between a tough adult plant and a fragile indoor baby seedling, you unlock the true power of gardening biology and guarantee yourself an absolutely massive harvest later in the summer. And there you have it, the ultimate twist. The very thing you thought was saving your garden was actually acting as a silent, invisible assassin. We have learned that 1 gram per liter is not a miracle recipe. It is a fast track to chemical burns, ruined soil, and dead microflora. The real power lies in microscopic doses, just a fraction of a single tablet. Remember, patience and proper biology will always outperform harsh chemical shortcuts. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and learning how to protect your little green babies. If this video saved your seedlings from certain doom, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and share it with a friend who loves plants. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever accidentally burned your plants by following a bad internet gardening hack? Jump down into the comments and tell me your wildest plant fail story right now.